Hello, I'm Reverend Rick, and it is my honor to be with you today. We really hope that this video is a blessing to you. And if it is, please consider making a donation. People watch our videos locally when they cannot necessarily come to church throughout the United States and the world. So please join us and click the link below and make a donation. Thank you, and let this be a blessing to you.
Let us prepare ourselves. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today.
And over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today.
And now over your heart, and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today.
The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that you may not always get what you're looking for, but you will always get what you're looking from. You may not get what you're looking for, but you will always get what you're looking from. So it's time now for us to stop looking for love and start looking from love. It's time for us to stop looking for our good and start looking from our good. It's time for us to stop looking for success and start looking from success in our lives. I'm in a little series right now called Wishes Fulfilled, based on the book by Wayne Dyer. And the longer version title of the book is Wishes Fulfilled, the 5 Technologies of Manifestation. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, are these 5 specific steps to manifestation. The book, however, is built on this premise that must be understood, embraced before you get to the 5 technologies. If you try and step over this foundational part and get to the 5 technologies, they won't yield for you what you want. They might improve your situation, but they're not going to yield for you what they could yield for you if you get this one premise. And the premise is this: you are God. You are God. You're not all of God, as I frequently say. Donna says way too often. We can't even wrap our head around how big God is, but God is all of us. God is all of us. And that's what we have to actually get very deeply in our mind. We have to begin to put into practice this notion of being the very thing that we're looking for, of being the very thing that we're looking for. And when we can put that into practice, our wishes will be fulfilled. Not can be fulfilled, not might be fulfilled, not should be fulfilled, but will be fulfilled when we can put that in to practice. Now, I know it's not an easy lift, this notion that we are God. I got an email this week from somebody who visited last Sunday and wanted me to know that there's only one human being who is God on the planet in human form, and that was Jesus. Now, I believe Jesus was God in form, and I believe Joyce is God in form. I believe Bill is God in form. I believe Rick is God in form. I believe all of us are God in form, and so did Jesus. And so here, it got me to thinking, though, I need to be more careful with this notion of we are God in form. And I think part of it, and I've always thought this, part of the reason we have a resistance, we have kind of a fear of seeing ourselves as God in form, because we're thinking that we are the same as the God in the sky, who is sometiming, who is controlling in our life. And if you think that's who God is, nobody wants to be that. And not only don't we want to be that, but we certainly don't want our mother-in-law to be that. We certainly don't want our boss to be that. So we have a little resistance to the whole notion that we are God. But if we can kind of get over that, if we can begin to understand that our role model of God is not a controlling God. It's not a some-timey God, but rather a God that is the source, the energy, the source and the supply of everything we need to manifest what we want on this planet. You know who knows that? All the people that we say are doing the impossible. When you say somebody is doing the impossible, here's what they understand. They might not be able to articulate it, but on some level, they understand that they are God in form. Our job is not to figure out how to be a great dancer or painter or songwriter or mechanical engineer. Our job is to recognize that we already are that. We already are that, and to come from that place of knowing. Well, last week we talked about the first technology of manifestation that we must lay upon this I am consciousness. I want to keep saying that. I'm going to harp on it this week, and we're going to finish up next week for the last two, but I'm going to keep harping on this thing is we have to take these technologies and lay them upon the I am consciousness in our life. And the first one was imagination. All of us have an imagination. All of us know we have an imagination. But most of us keep this imagination in a safe space. We have to stop that now. We have to stop keeping our imagination safe and move it into the unsafe. We have to move it into, it makes our teeth itch a little bit to imagine this. We have to move it into, I hope nobody knows I'm imagining this or they'll think I'm a total egomaniac. No, that's where we need to move it. We need to move it into that place. Into that place of the I am consciousness, because that consciousness has no limitations in our life. It puts the five senses in a lockbox, and it just moves us forward with our soul, our heart, our mind, and our imagination. In order to do that, though, you have to, and I'm going to say you have to, ignore statistics. You have to understand that you have the power of the presence of God within you, and you also have to ignore statistics. You have to be able to, because see, statistics are just a group of numbers of people who have had a limited thinking experience of something in our mind. So, you know, if you've had 4 bad relationships and the statistics say, I'm never going to have, ignore it. You're going to have a fabulous relationship. Put it in your imagination and work with these technologies. And nothing can stop you in your life. There are some people who don't think they can start a great career at 70 years old. I call BS. I call BS. You can have a great career, whatever age, but you have to ignore the statistics that say nobody at the age of 70 starts anything new. In order to be able to do that, we have to be able to just kind of open up our hearts and our minds. You know, here's what happens. Sometimes when we take our imagination and we put it in our own failed history. Oh, I tried that once before, but I didn't make it. I couldn't do it. And so we take our imagination, we put it in the filter of that history, and then we make ourselves smaller and weaker. And we kind of diminish the imaginative abilities to create something new. And then if we don't do it in our own personal history, we look out here and we see other people's personal history. Well, no other 70-year-old started a new career. I guess it won't happen. Or we tell somebody and they roll their eyes about our imagination, and then we stop. We're not persistent. I love the story of the basketball coach. I think I've told the story before. The basketball coach whose kids were having a terrible season, and he needed to get them to, you know, get excited again. And he said, "Look, did Michael Jordan ever quit?" And the kids roared back, "No." Did J-Lo ever quit? And the kids roared back, "No." Did the Wright brothers ever quit? And the kids roared back, "No." And he said, "Did Alistair McKenzie, he quit?" And the kids said, "Who? We never heard of him." "Of course not, because he quit." So the first technology is imagination, laid on the I am consciousness. The second one is living from the end. Living from the end. So you have your imagination and you get a dream in your imagination and it's vibrant. Now you go to the end of it as if it already was here, right now. And that's where you start living from, is that place. There are many of us in this room who are in recovery, and we know our sponsors at one time or another said, you must act as if. You must act as if. Why do they tell us that? Because they want us to live in the present moment. And acting as if requires you to live in the present moment. And that's where manifestation happens. It doesn't happen in your history. It hasn't even happened in your future. It happens right now. So we want people to live being in the present. Jesus modeled this over and over and over again with his miracles. You know, people were thirsty, they wanted wine. He didn't worry about calling a caterer, or he didn't worry about crushing grapes. He declared it so, and they drank. When people wanted to see and they were blind, he didn't wait for bandages to come off or anything else. He declared it so, and they saw, because he was living from the end. He knew what was needed, and he began to live from the end. Now, you and I can wait, and we can struggle as long as we want, but if we want our wishes fulfilled, we have to begin to live in the I am state, not I hope to be state. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I get stuck in that hope to be state. And our work is simply to retrain ourselves back into this present moment, using language to imagine formulate your wish, and then live from it. So now I always have this caution whenever I talk about living from the end, because it's a basic metaphysical belief that we have to live from the end of our dreams. But I always have a caution because we're an authentic church. We're not bubble-headed people here. We're an authentic church that does practical application of powerful spiritual truths. A lot of us, when I was in my first year of recovery, I did not need to have this particular wisdom, live from the end. So here's my caution. If you want a Maserati, walk like you have a Maserati. Talk like you have a Maserati. Get some pictures of Maseratis. Go test drive a Maserati. Don't buy a Maserati. Now, for those of us not in our first year, then we get a little more leeway with this, but I also want us to be careful here, because this is powerful information. One of my favorite stories from the Bible is about this idea of living from the end, and it comes from David and Goliath. Now, whether you were born in a Bible-based home or not, you know this story because it's part of the culture. The Philistines were on one hill, the Israelites on another hill. They wanted to have a battle for, I don't even know why, but they had to have this battle. There was a valley in between. The idea is that both armies would run down and they'd have this clash, and whoever won would be victorious, and whatever they were going to get, they got. Okay, but here's the thing. The Israelites were no dopes. They knew that these guys were bigger than they were. Not just the giant Goliath, but all of the guys were bigger than they were. And so they said, you know, let's take some time and really think about this. So they're up in this hill, and the Philistines are getting tired of waiting. So for 40 days, they send their biggest guy, whose name is Goliath, down into the valley. And Goliath says, look, we don't need to have a big war where everybody, you know, a lot of bloodshed and all that stuff. Send me your best fighter, and I will fight him, and whoever wins, that's who's going to win the war. And so they're still the Israelites. They think, my God, we couldn't have beat their skinniest guy, let alone their biggest guy, so they're still up there waiting. And in the meantime, there is a guy named David, a kid named David, who's about 16, 17 years old, a teenage boy. He was too young to fight in the battle. And so he stayed home and tended the sheep. But his dad sent him with some sandwiches to his brother, who was in the army, and said, take the sandwiches to your brothers and then come back. Well, while he's there giving the sandwiches, he hears the guys talking about the benefits of being the guy who goes and fights, the fighter. And one of the benefits is that you don't pay taxes the rest of your life. Well, to a 17-year-old, who cares? That doesn't even get in all the way. And they say, and you could have an important job in the king's court. Kid didn't care about that either. The third one is, and you can have the hand of my beautiful princess daughter. Well, no, he's a 17-year-old kid, of course. That's what got him. So he goes around, he asks the soldiers, all about this, what is the princess? Oh, she's beautiful. She wears gorgeous perfume, and she smells fabulous. And she has a smile that would just light up the world. And the more they talked about it, the more he got it. He was there. He's a 17-year-old boy. Of course, he's there. That's where he wants to live from. And so he says, you know what, I'm going to go fight. I'll fight. And they're all saying, no, you're a scrawny little kid. Look at what this guy looks like, Goliath. So to make a long story shorter, he gets 5 smooth stones and a slingshot, and he goes down and he says, Goliath, come on, I'm going to take you on. And by the time Goliath gets there, he takes his 5 smooth stones and he shoots them, and he hits Goliath in the center of the head, knocks him out, and he goes and finishes him. Why did he do that? Because he was living from the end. That's what motivated him. The princess. That was the end. Now, for those of you who are TED Talk people, I just heard a fabulous TED Talk by one of my favorite people. Now I'm going to forget his name. Gladsmith? Gladwell. Now, Malcolm Gladwell does a fabulous TED Talk on this very story. Just an aside, you might want to check it out if you're a TED Talk person. But at any rate, it's a great example that we need to look at the end. What are we going to, how will we feel? What will we get when we get to the end? And that's where we live from, is that place. So the first technology is imagination. The second one is living from the end, and we place both of those in the I am consciousness. And the third is to embody the feelings, with which when your wishes are fulfilled. How will you feel? What will it feel like when you get that project off the ground and it's in fruition and it's active in your life? What will you feel like when your beloved calls and you know you're going to have a great night together? What will it feel like when that child you've been worried about makes a friend at school and wants to bring them home? What will that feel like for you? We have to know what our feelings are like, because those feelings are the grease on the manifestation wheel. If you don't get anything else, those feelings are the grease on the manifestation wheel. And the easy thing, the good thing is, if you're living from the end and you're truly living from the end, those feelings don't have to be manufactured. You don't have to bring them up. You just have to let them out, because you're going to feel that naturally when you feel that you have manifested that which you want in your life. Now, here is the thing. Not only do we want to feel it, but we want to not be embarrassed about feeling our good feelings. We want to, feeling it. One of the worst ideas I ever had here at the church, and I've had a few, is we were going to have a bingo parlor. We were going to turn this into a bingo parlor a couple of nights a week. Remember that, Phil? We were going to, and so I didn't know really anything about bingo too much, and so Donna and I went to a bingo parlor here. Now, I was amazed. They have these little daubers that these little things that you. I was still the bean person, you put a bean on. So it was quite a thing, and it was like a little factory. I mean, it was an amazing thing. Right in the middle, they had a glass cage where people could smoke. If you wanted to smoke, you got to go in the glass. It was an amazing thing. But the most amazing thing about it was that when people would yell bingo, the differences, the different personalities that would come out, the different, someone would say, bingo, bingo, and others say, bingo! And they'd be jumping up and down and throwing themselves around. That's where you want to be. You want to be the jumping up and down, throwing yourself around kind of feeling when you get it. And it does two things. It not only greases the manifestation wheel within your own consciousness, it also brings in people who love to be around the energy of success. And once you get that energy going, people want to support you and help you with it. So feeling your feelings is really important in our life. But the most important thing in feeling your feelings is to be aware of anybody who wants to rain on your parade. And then gently, no, don't hate them. Don't hate us here. You don't hate them. You just kind of, thanks, I can't make lunch today. Or for a year from now, I can't. Because people are hard. I want to read to you a story. I love this story. I probably read it once a year. I love it so much. Probably no one has stirred my imagination over the years more than Walt Jones of Tacoma, Washington. Walt outlived his third wife, to whom he was married for 52 years. When she died, someone said to Walt, "You must be sad losing such a long-time friend." His response was, "Well, of course it was, but then again, it may be for the best." Why is that? I don't want to be negative or say anything to defame her wonderful character, but she kind of petered out on me in the last decade. When asked to explain, he went on to add, she just never wanted to do nothing, just kind of became a stick in the mud. 10 years ago, when I was 94, I told my wife, "We ain't never seen nothing except the beautiful Pacific Southwest." She asked me what was on my mind, and I told her I'm thinking about buying a motorhome, and maybe we could visit all 48 of the contiguous states. What do you think of that? She said, "I think you're out of your mind, Walt." "Why do you say that?" I asked. "We get mugged over there. We'd die, and there wouldn't be a funeral parlor or anything." Then she asked me, "Who's going to drive, Walter?" And I said, "I am, Lemmykins." "You'll kill us," she said. "I'd like to make footprints in the sands of time before I check out, but you can't make footprints in the sands of time if you're sitting on your butt, unless your intent is to make butt prints." Well, now she's gone. "Walt, what do you intend to do?" "What do I intend to do? I buried the old gal and bought me a motorhome." This is 1976, and I intend to visit all 48 of the contiguous states to celebrate our bicentennial. Walt got to 43 of the states that year, selling curios and souvenirs. Walt hadn't had his motorhome but a few months, and his wife had only been married for 6 months, when he was seen driving down the street with a rather attractive 62-year-old woman at his side. "Walt," he was asked, "Yeah, who was that woman sitting by your side? Who's your new lady friend, Walt?" To which he replied, "Yes, she is." "Yes, she is what?" "My lady friend." "Lady friend? Walt, you've been married 3 times. You're 104 years old. This woman must be 4 decades younger than you." "Well," he responded, "I quickly discovered that man cannot live in motorhome alone." "I understand that, Walt. You probably miss having someone to talk to after having a companion all these years." Without hesitation, Walt replied, "You know, I miss that too." "True? Are you referring you have a romantic interest?" "I just might." "Walt, what? There comes a time in a person's life when you knock that stuff off." "Sex?" he replied. "Yes." "Why?" "Well, because that kind of physical exertion could be hazardous to a person's health." Walt considered the question and said, "Well, if she dies, she dies." Let's take this message in prayer. Knowing that there is a power and a presence of love in this very room and on this very planet, that is always here, always for us, always saying yes. I give thanks for that. I release this word in the law, and together we say,